Welcome to the Madison Miller podcast. Tonight's guest is the co-host of the Sports Dude podcast. I haven't had him on in a while. James Celestin, how are you doing on this Thursday evening?
Doing good. Can't complain. What's going on with you?
Not much. All right. So the NBA playoffs are underway. They're about a week old. We'll start with the East and work our way to the West. The Brooklyn Nets. We'll start with them because that's just the easy series to start with. Celtics up 2-0. What are your thoughts on the series so far?
A few things. Number one, I'm very impressed with the Celtics defense. They're absolutely blitzing Kevin Durant. They are sending multiple players at him, and he has looked absolutely flustered. Jason Tatum is reminding everyone that he's still one of the best players under the age of 25 years old. And let's not forget, this dude went to two Eastern Conference Finals appearances. He was 48 minutes away from going to an NBA Finals against LeBron's Cavs. So let's keep that in mind. So and Jaylen Brown is fantastic. Marcus Smart has been playing absolutely good defense. So all in all, I'm impressed with the Celtics defense. I'm a little bit more surprised at the Nets, at blowing game one, playing awful defense at the end, and then blowing a 17-point lead. So it could easily been 2-0 Nets, but this is why Ime Udoka is a really good coach, and it looks like Nash is in over his head.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Nash is in over his head. I just think the lack of experience kind of hurt him, and maybe he'll end up hurting Ike down the stretch with the Celts. But I just think the Celts are just a better team all around, and I think that the Nets' depth is a little overrated. So I can't really fault Nash for that. To me, Sean Marks deserves blame if they are to lose the series. What are your thoughts about Sean Marks and whether he deserves blame or not?
He gets some of the blame because he did put this roster together. Ultimately, he's not going to go anywhere, but there is going to be a scapegoat, and it's going to be Nash. But ultimately, I'm a little bit disappointed with Marks how he put the team together. It's just that some of the pieces aren't working. It doesn't look like at all this is a really good team at all. It does not look like a team that's very ready to win a championship. It looks like it's Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and then there's a bunch of guys. I mean, I do like Seth Curry, and I do think that Bruce Brown's a really good player. But I also want to know when is Ben Simmons coming back? He's scheduled to come back game 4. What are you going to get out of Ben Simmons? He hasn't played since game 7 against the Hawks last year. So what are you going to get for him? 15, 20 minutes of defense? We'll see. So I'm not a fan of the construction of the team, so Marks gets some of the blame, but ultimately the scapegoat's going to be on Nash.
Yeah, I actually think that Nash will be back next year, but if they lose, I have a feeling that like Nets Twitter and such is gonna compare him to Aaron Boone from a standpoint of high expectations, star players, just hasn't come through yet. Is that a fair comparison or no?
I don't think that's that much of a fair comparison. Because even though the experiences are similar, I mean, Nash was a better player at his sport than Boone was at his sport. But
True.
ultimately, it's the NBA is more of a players-driven league. So ultimately, the players signed. KD signed off on this, so this was KD's guy, as opposed to Cashman hired Boone, and Boone follows the analytics of the team. So it's a little unfair, and plus Boone has gotten the team to at least the American League Championship Series. Nash hasn't even gotten them to the Eastern Conference Finals, so I don't think it's that fair of a comparison, to be honest with you.
Okay, I'd say that's fair too. From your take, but yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's a fair comparison, but I'm just saying I would not be stunned if Twitter starts to compare those two because like they're both New York managers and coaches, so that's why I bring that up. Also in the East, you have the Hawks and the Heat. Do you think that Trae Young and the Hawks could still get back in the series, or do you think Miami wraps it up in 4 or 5?
I think it's a gentleman's sweep. I think Trae Young will get you one. but this series is over. Like, the Heat are just a better team. Um, the Heat are just absolutely just brutalizing Trae Young. You think what KD is getting treated by Boston? Look at what the Heat is doing to poor Trae Young. It seems like everywhere Trae Young is, just they're just bodying him, and it's just he's getting so difficult to make shots. I mean, he was 2 for 10 for 3-pointers the other day. So I think this series is over. I think the Heat are going to win this in 5. I think Trae Young will get you 1 because they are home. So they'll probably win either Game 3 or Game home, and Miami wraps us up in Game 5 in Miami.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. Also in the East, you have what I think was the most interesting series, other than Boston, Brooklyn going into the first round, but it's been a complete dud other than Game 3, and that's Philadelphia, Toronto. Will Joel Embiid own up to his word, or will the Raptors make this a little more interesting?
Oh, this series is over. It's
I think
also
so
another
too.
German sweep. This series is done. Like, Toronto is just outmatched. I mean, they don't have Scotty Barnes, who's arguably their best player, and it was a fun Game 3. Something to keep in mind: Harden. Something don't look right with James Harden. Something don't look right. I don't know if he's fully healed from that hamstring, but he don't look like the same Harden as before. So that's something to keep in mind. Tyrese Maxey, welcome to the show, Tyrese. Just putting on absolute clinic. But all in all, I think the series ends in 5 as well. I thought it was going to be interesting. Toronto didn't even put up that much of a fight except for Game 3, and this series also is a wrap.
Yeah, I really thought that. I picked Philly in 6 before the series because I thought everyone and their brother was penciling the Raptors into the next round and judging the Sixers based on Harden's failures and Doc Rivers' failures. So I went with Philly in 6, but Philly has been a lot better than I thought. And then I really did think that Toronto was going to win Game 3, but the person who I think should be the MVP in the league had other ideas. Do you think Jokic or Embiid for MVP, by the way?
Oh, man, that is tough. I probably would have to go with Jokic. I think Jokic is more of a complete player, but you can go either or. I think Jokic could be MVP. I think Joel. It's a hard one, but I'm leaning towards Jokic. But you can also argue that Base Embiid should be the MVP because you have to remember it's a regular season award. It's not a postseason award, so you got to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually think it should be Joel Embiid. And that's nothing against Jokic. I have no problem with Jokic winning it because he's just fabulous. Single-handedly carried them to the playoffs. But my case for Embiid is that the Sixers have had some dysfunction throughout the season with the Ben Simmons situation, and Embiid really kept that team together. So, and Embiid, of course, is having the best year of his career, in my opinion. So that's my case for Embiid. And you can't go wrong with Giannis either because Giannis is Giannis, and I think Giannis is still the best player in the NBA.
I agree. I think Giannis is absolutely the best player in the league, and again, you can also make the argument for him as well with what he's done with Milwaukee, and he's just been just dominant from the jump. I mean, it's going to be tough sledding now that Milton's going to be out for a while, but Giannis is still an outstanding player, and he literally put Milwaukee back on the map. So Giannis, you can make the case for all of them. This is probably the hardest MVP to discuss, but I'm going to go Jokic, but you can also make the case for Embiid. And I honestly wouldn't be mad with any of the choices.
I wouldn't be mad either. And then the last series in the East that we didn't talk about yet, Milwaukee, Chicago. Surprisingly, the Bulls won a game, but that Chris Middleton injury is not great for Milwaukee. I still think the Bucks will win this series, but it'll probably go further than I would ever imagined. Because I had originally picked the Bucks to sweep, but little did I know that Middleton would get hurt.
Well, even with Middleton, I still had the Bucks win the series in 6. But now it's looking like it could go 7 because that injury is just absolutely brutal, man. Man, like tough break for Middleton, but I still say Bucks win this. The Bucks should have more than enough to get by the Bulls. I mean, you still have Giannis. I mean, you still have Drew Holiday. You still have Brook Lopez, and you still have Matthews and all the other players that they got. So the Bucks have enough to get by, but they're not going to win the championship without Middleton.
I agree with you. And another team that suffered a big injury recently is the favorites to crown the West, the Phoenix Suns, who lost Devin Booker. Looks like he's going to miss a couple weeks with that hamstring injury. Um, do you think that they get by New Orleans?
I think they still get by New Orleans. They have enough to get by New Orleans.
I think so too.
It'd be very disappointing if they don't, but I think they get by New Orleans. But just like I said with the Bucks, the Suns will not win a championship without Devin Booker.
I agree.
Because as much as I love CP3, they're not winning a championship without Booker. CP3 is 37. They don't have enough, especially with Golden State coming around the corner, and if Golden State is continue playing how they're playing, and with the emergence of Jordan Poole now, and Wiggins realizing his true potential, and Bielitsa and Gary Payton the second, and then you have all these players off the bench, and Draymond being Draymond. The Warriors could go back to the NBA championship, and this is going to be a huge hot take. Kevin Durant leaving Golden State to go play with Kyrie Irving will be the biggest mistake of his career, because he could have won multiple championships with Steph Curry, but choosing to leave to go play with Kyrie, if Golden State wins the championship without Kevin Durant for a second time, it'll be the biggest mistake of Kevin Durant's career.
That's not that ridiculous of a take. I had to think about that one for a second. On the surface, it doesn't sound ridiculous at all. Because you know who would look bad if Golden State wins a championship? The Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, it'd be worse. It'd be worse. Imagine, because obviously Knicks fans will take delight in this.
Oh, man.
Just imagine that, Golden State without KD, they managed to win the championship, and Steph Curry wins his first ever NBA Finals MVP to just already cement that he's one of the top two greatest point guards to ever play. I mean, this is something that if I'm Kevin Durant, I know Kevin Durant probably not going to think about it, but that's something that's going to be heavily criticized for him to leave Golden State to go play with Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn.
Oh, I agree with you. I think it's going to be talked about more if Golden State makes the finals or even the conference finals, and if the Nets get bounced by the Celtics. Also in the West, an interesting series between Minnesota and Memphis. Right now, as we speak, Minnesota's up 58-46 as I have TNT on mute on my TV right now. Thoughts on this series so far? Blowout, a close game, and Minnesota up by double digits right now.
I think we have underestimated how scrappy Minnesota is. I think people thought it was a foregone conclusion that Memphis was going to roll by Minnesota, and I think we underestimated just how good Minnesota is. And I think Memphis starts to really kind of underestimated just how good Minnesota is, because this Minnesota team is scrappy. This is a very, very scrappy team. I mean, you got D'Angelo Russell has been balling out. Pat Bever's made such a difference with that team. Anthony Edwards is balling out. Love Anthony Edwards. And how can we forget about Karl Anthony Towns? All the things that he has gone through, in the past year. This man is absolutely fantastic. And can we give Chris Finch some love? I mean, I think he's one of the finalists for Coach of the Year, and he has done an absolutely outstanding job just transforming the identity of this Minnesota Timberwolves team, and they're becoming more fun now. This is organically done with all those players that they've gotten from, like, whether it's first round picks or G Leagues, and they've done an absolutely fantastic job with the roster and construction of this entire team. And honestly, I am absolutely a fan of Chris Finch, and they've done really, really well.
They have done well. I'm very impressed with the Timberwolves this year, and I think you're right. We underestimated Minnesota. Um, I think that Golden State Denver's gonna be a sweep unless if Jokic puts up a superhero performance in either game 3 or game 4. What do you think about that?
Oh, it's sweeping. Oh, go say just get the brooms out. It's sweeping. Jokic has to be absolutely a man amongst boys for them to even have a chance to win this series. And it hurts a lot with Porter Jr. and Murray missing this playoff series because I'm not. It would have made a little this series a little bit more interesting. But man, I gotta tell you, it's gonna be a sweep. I feel for Jokic. Jokic is doing everything he can. He's getting so frustrated. Draymond is playing outstanding defense on Jokic, and he's just frustrating the hell out of him. I think it's over for Denver.
Yeah, and then the last series in the West, you have Dallas against Utah. No Luca again tonight, but the Mavs found a way in game 2. Jalen Brunson had the game of his life. If Luca comes back in the series, I think Dallas wins the series. If not, Utah wins the series. That's just, to me, it's just simple.
I actually had Dallas win this series regardless whether Luka was playing in or not.
Wow.
Because there's just something about this Jazz team that I just don't like. I don't know what it is. They do well in the regular season, but when it comes to the postseason, they've taken some embarrassing losses. And I'm gonna tell you, when they lose this series, because I have them losing this series in 6, when Dallas beats Utah, there's gonna be a lot of changes. And I know they're going to do everything they can to try to appease Donovan Mitchell because he is the star. I would not be surprised if Donovan Mitchell asks for a trade.
I agree.
Because he's getting super frustrated, even though the East is no slouch. There are 2 teams to keep in mind in the East that could make a potential move for Donovan Mitchell are the New York Knicks and the Miami Heat. Because both of them have the assets that the Utah Jazz would want, young players and draft picks.
Yeah. We'll talk about Donovan Mitchell and chances he lands Knicks a little bit later in the show. But speaking of the Knicks, one of the rapid fire items I have for you as we go into that part of the show, more disappointing season. To me, it's no doubt about it, but I want to see if we agree here. Knicks or Islanders?
2 of my favorite teams. It's clearly the New York Islanders.
I agree.
Because unlike the New York Knicks, the Islanders were Stanley Cup's favorites.
Absolutely.
To go out and win the whole damn thing. I mean, people from ESPN, Don LaGreca, a lot of people picked the Islanders to win the Stanley Cup.
I had them in the final.
And I did too because I'm a fan. But the fact of the matter is, that 13-game road trip didn't do many favors. They've had a ton of injuries. They've lost unfortunately, a lot of Islanders legends passed away this year. They struggled in overtime and shootouts. Even though Brock Nelson had a career high in goals, Barzell kind of regressed. Wallstrom regressed. The little bright spots for the Islanders had is that Dobson was playing exceptionally well. And we have seen the emergence of 2 elite goaltenders in the tri-state area, and Igor Shesterkin, who is a Vezina finalist and should win the Vezina, and Ilya Sorokin, who should be a Vezina finalist, but who should not win because his team is not in the playoffs. Sorokin has been absolutely as advertised. Fantastic goalie, one of the few bright spots for the Islanders, but the Islanders clearly was a huge disappointment. And, I'm not going to make excuses for it. COVID and that road trip played a factor, but they just did not play well against the elite of the elite competition. They only had 8 wins against teams that are currently in the playoffs. They're trailing right now to the New York Rangers, who is a playoff team, 5-1. Varlamov is getting absolutely shredded. And I will tip my hat to the New York Rangers for they have a season that honestly is the most surprising season because I knew they were going to be good. I didn't think they were going to be this good.
I agree. I did not think the Rangers were going to be this good. The Rangers might win the division.
Yeah, listen, right? Listen, the Rangers have a chance. If Carolina loses one of their games, um, they have a really good chance of winning that division. And honestly, that would be a little bit of a surprise because I did not see that coming. Because all Carolina got to do is, lose at least one of their games, and the Rangers win one, and the Rangers will win that division. Which is, if you would have told me that the Rangers would win the Metro over Carolina, I would say you're absolutely joking. But I got to get props to your Rangers real quick. The Rangers have been playing exceptionally well. Gallant is an exceptional head coach. Kreider with a career high in goals. Lafreniere is finding his game now. Those trade acquisitions, especially Kopp, has been absolutely fantastic. Got a hat trick in this game right now. The simple fact that Adam Fox is playing like a Norris trophy winner that he is. The Rangers have so much balance. Reeves gives a toughness that the Rangers have been lacking, which you need in the postseason. You're hoping to get Capo back for the postseason. The Rangers, they may or may not win the Stanley Cup this year. I'm going to lean towards they won't. But if you're telling me of all the New York metropolitan teams, who has the best chance of winning, I put my money on the New York Rangers right now.
Oh, absolutely, because there might be a chance that they have home ice advantage the first rounds of the postseason. Of course, they have the best chance.
And they play really well at home too.
They're a great home team. If you asked me right now at gunpoint, I think they're going to be in the conference finals. I really do. But the team that I think they're probably going to lose to is the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, I want to lean towards Florida, but Florida got to prove to me they can win a round series.
Exactly.
Florida always does that. They've always had exceptionally good regular seasons, but, case in point, 2016, they had a really good regular season. They lost to the Islanders in the first round. Florida has always had good regular seasons, but you need to show me something in the postseason. They are a real good team. I mean, Barkov is fantastic, and Huberdeau is really, really good, but you need to show me that you can win a first-round series, and if you can do that, then I'll believe in you. But ultimately, right now, I say Rangers, Lightning, Eastern Conference Finals right now.
Yeah, me too, and I'm leaning Lightning over Rangers, but I don't think the Lightning are going to three-peat. I'm going Avalanche over the Lightning for the final right now.
I got the Lightning also going 3 times. I think Lightning are going to go a three-peat this year because the Lightning are they're just good. They're really, really good. And I'm going to be honest, I think Colorado is the best team out west, but the West is really, really, I call the Western Conference the NL of hockey because there's just not really that much dominant teams in the Western Conference in the NHL. The superpowers are in the East.
Yep.
If the Rangers get to the conference finals, they earned that because in the division alone is a gauntlet. Carolina is a good team. Pittsburgh is still a good team. Washington is a good team. Then you look at the Atlantic side, you got Boston that's still competing, you got Toronto, and you got Tampa. So all in all, the East is a gauntlet to get to. And if the Rangers can get to the conference finals, I think that's a successful season.
I think their season's already a success. I thought they were like a borderline playoff team before the year because of the depth of the East. Whoever makes the conference finals, to me, has absolutely earned it because you can't underestimate the opposite side of, like, the Atlantic side of the bracket, the Florida, Tampa, even, like, Toronto isn't bad, even though Toronto's usually a choker in the playoffs. Even Boston's had experience. Whoever makes the Eastern Conference Finals, to me, has earned it. And if there's a team that I think can knock off the Avalanche in the West, I think the Avs are going to win the Cup. I think the Avs are good. I just think it'd be hard for Tampa to three-peat because of the Gauntlet East. So that's why I think the West winner will probably win the Cup. But I could be wrong. I think Calgary has a shot to potentially make the final too. You can't write off Calgary.
Calgary's a really exceptionally good team. I pay attention to Calgary. I think Calgary, if there's a team, before I would have picked Vegas, but their goaltending situation is horrendous. And if you have no goalie in the postseason, you're not winning. I do like Calgary. They're more of a balanced team. I think Colorado was more top heavy. I think though that if there's a team that could knock them off, Calgary could be the team. But I just think whoever comes out the East has earned it. but I wouldn't be surprised if a Western Conference team wins it because you look at the scars you have to go through in the East, not only in the Metro side, but in the Atlantic side as well. You would earn it. And I will say this, Washington and Pittsburgh's run of East is slowly coming to an end. They're going to be in a rebuild mode, and Boston is going to join them as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, don't forget about Boston in that group.
You're going to see the Rangers, the Hurricanes,
the Islanders.
You're going to see a lot of these teams run the East for a while because they're young, they got goaltenders, and they got good coaching.
Yeah, and before you know it, Tampa's going to be with that Pittsburgh, Boston, Washington trio, too. I mean, you can't even rule that out down the road, or even Toronto, for that matter, because they've been good for a while.
Also going to be in that world, too.
Yeah, either Tampa or Toronto, but I think those two teams aren't quite there yet. Although, I think there's a possibility that Boston hangs around a little bit longer than Pittsburgh and the Caps in terms of contenders in the East because of their youth. But the case against Boston is because of the goaltending.
Bergeron and Marchand, because you can't have two players eating up the salary cap. You're going to have to make a decision.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That was fun talking about a little bit of hockey. I know we talked about Knicks versus Islanders. Let's get into the Knicks argument of this. Disappointing year. I think the fans turned on Thibodeau a little bit. I thought he deserved to come back for one more year. I'm going to give him and Leon Rose one more year. And I won't be shocked if the Knicks are in the play-in tournament next year. Julius Randle just had a bad year. Maybe they trade him. And if they keep him, then maybe he's Lindor, like the early season of Francisco Lindor so far at the Mets, and kind of turns it around, you know? I mean, I'm optimistic about the Knicks long term. More optimistic than most. What about you? Oh, and RJ Barrett, too, obviously.
The Knicks have a lot of flexibility. They don't have a lot of salary cap, but they do have a lot of trade maneuver flexibility, so they can make moves if they want to. They're going to have a top 10 lottery pick. Don't expect the Knicks to win the lottery because that does not happen. The Knicks do not win the lottery. Knicks are winning the lottery do not happen.
Nope.
Don't expect that. But I do expect the Knicks to get a top 10 pick. They're going to have to adjust the point guard situation because I think that's the biggest thing that's holding the Knicks back. They don't have a guy that can dribble, penetrate, and break down the defense. They need to have that. Because Derrick Rose he's more reserved for the bench role. I think quickly he's shown signs he can, but he's too small and he's not big enough to take on the bigger guards in the NBA. So I think the Knicks will probably be a play-in team next year in that 8-9 range. I do think that I think Randall will probably get traded this summer.
Maybe for Mitchell.
RJ Barrett's team. I am so high on RJ Barrett.
Me too.
I think RJ Barrett's going to be an all-star next year.
Oh, me too.
He's trending towards an all-star. I think he knows he needs to work on his free throws. If he can at least shoot 80% from the free throw line, that will be great. Then he'll average about in the 25, 26 range. He'll be an all-star. I expect big things from Cam Reddish because Cam Reddish, before he got injured, was starting to play exceptionally well. I really think, though, that the Knicks are going to be fine. I give Tibbs this year, but if the Knicks have another season like this, then I expect the front office sweeping changes.
Yep, me too. I give Tibbs one more year. I think that I know we were talking about the Islanders, about like how injuries and COVID kind of hurt them. It hurt the Knicks too. I mean, it happens. And what else hurt the Knicks was that the Bulls and the Cavs overachieved this year.
Especially the Cavs, because I did not see the Cavs come. I think the Bulls. I thought the Bulls were a borderline playing team. I did not see the Cavs. The Cavs overachieved, and the Cavs proved to me that I think the Cavs are going to come right back to earth. Because one thing that you have to understand about teams overachieves, now you have expectations.
Yep.
And when you have a young team with expectations, you have to deliver. You're not veterans where no expectations and you think you can deliver. The Cavs have expectations now, and I'm not sure the Cavs can deliver. Although I do like Garland. I think Garland is good and Mobley is good. But I love RJ. I love Quickly. I think Grimes is a solid pickup. I want to see more McBride and Jericho Sims. Man, I love this kid.
He wasn't bad.
Such a fun energy around him. I think they need to trade Noel. Re-sign Mitchell Robinson. I think Mitchell Robinson is a guy to keep. I say trade Noel. I think Randall will get traded as well, and I think you need to be a little bit younger, athletic, and you need to get a point guard that can penetrate and make perimeter shots, because the Knicks do not have a point guard, and if you do not have a point guard in the NBA, you're not winning.
Exactly. And I really think that there's a possibility Randall's in a potential Mitchell deal. Like, you could do like a Mitchell and then Randall, and you can throw in some other pieces and picks around in there as well. So I wouldn't rule out Randall in any sort of Mitchell trade. I don't think Damian Lillard's going to be on the Knicks. I feel like he's going to be on maybe like, I almost said Philadelphia, but I don't know how that would work from a cap standpoint for them unless they dump Tobias Harris and whatnot. But Philly, Maxi's a keeper. I love Maxi. So I don't know what Philly's going to do. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason in both the NBA and the NHL.
Don't be surprised if Denver makes a trade for Randall, because Randall with Jokic would do wonders for him, because that would just open up the floor for Julius Randle, and I think that would help Denver a lot. So Denver's a team I keep an eye on for a trade for Randle.
Like, Aaron Gordon maybe involved in there? So
Aaron Gordon and I think Harris, I think they're backup point guard, so that's another person.
Monte Morris?
Yep, I think they're backup point guard, and Aaron Gordon, because I like Aaron Gordon.
Me too.
He has shown flashes, and he's played really well since he went to Denver.
He has played really well since he's on the Denver. Okay, 2 more rapid fire things. Yankees 7-6 to start the season. A couple shutouts. Offense has been like mostly not great, obviously. Guys underperforming and whatnot. Do you think there's like a slight chance that they could be like baseball's version of the Lakers this year, or do you think they eventually turn it around? I think it's the latter, not the former.
I think the Yankees will eventually turn it around. I do like that Connor Felipe has been hitting well as of late. DJ's starting to, hit well and starting to show that he had an injury last year.
Yep.
So there's that. Glaber, I'm hugely disappointed. Gallo looks like he's lost. Judge a little bit struggling out the gate. Not what you want from a guy that wants to get paid over $36 million. But they have to figure that out. And I'm staying after the Boston series have cooled off a little bit. But I think the Yankees will eventually turn around. The Yankees are notoriously slow starters. The positive thing is they're still around close to first place, so they're not out of it yet. I think that they also benefit too that everyone in the East has not gone up to that start that they've had. Even
right. Toronto's been very disappointing.
Like the Rays have really struggled. I'm surprised at the Rays. The Rays struggled a little bit because they were actually a sleeper team of mine to win the East other than Toronto, because I still think Toronto wins that division.
Oh, me too.
Boston, I'm not surprised. But I think Boston kind of overachieved last year. I think Boston comes back to the norm.
Boston might be the baseball's Lakers.
It's going to be a battle between Toronto and New York for that division. I think the Yankees will turn around. Their pitching has been excellent. And the one thing that has helped the Yankees is their starting pitching is one of the best in the league. Their bullpen is one of the best in the league. And when you have elite pitching, all you need is good enough offense. And in the postseason, you need good enough offense. And I do think Garrett Cole will turn around. I was frustrated with Cole's couple of starts, but I think Cole will turn around because he's a pitcher's pitcher. Sevy's healthy. Monty's pitching well. Nestor Cortez is pitching fantastic. So I'm not worried about the pitching. I'm not worried about the bullpen. I think the offense will turn around and the Yankees will start to get hot. But they benefit because everybody else in the division is also struggling.
Yeah, they benefit because of the division. The Yankees are lucky in that sense. And I think that eventually the Yankees and the Blue Jays and even Tampa Bay will turn it around. But I think once they hit the warmer weather, those offenses will get rolling. All right, one last thing, NFL draft. Who are your dream guys for the Giants?
Okay, at number 5, I think Thibodeau's going to go to the Jets.
Me too.
So number 5, I think Akeem will go to the Texans. My preference, number 5, I want the Giants to draft Cross. I think Cross, and they've looked extensively at Cross. I think Cross will be nice for the Giants, number 5. And number 7, give me the sauce. Ahmad Sauce Gardner. I think Bradbury, unfortunately, is going to get traded due to cap casualties. Thanks, Gettleman. I think Bradbury will get traded. Ahmad Sauce Gardner, everything I read, his skill set mirrors Darrelle Revis, which is perfect, especially Rick Martindale's defense. I think for me, the dream is give me Cross at 5. So you have Cross, you have Andrew Thomas, and you're gonna draft another guard later on in the second round. Your offensive line will be solidified. Your corner will be solidified because if Daniel Jones is not the guy, then you have a foundation of your offensive line being set, so the quarterback that you do end up getting will be in a perfect situation, which is what you should do. So I think my dream scenario, give me Charles Cross. I'm not big on Evan Neal. Give me Charles Cross. Give me Ahmad Sauce Gardner. 5, 7, boom. Perfect scenario. A+ for the Giants.
All right. I like Evan Neal more than you do. I just like Alabama guys a lot. And I like Cross too. But my issue with Cross is that he had a breakout year in college last year. He was kind of came out of nowhere in a way. So I trust the Alabama pedigree with Neal. I would take him at 5, and I'm with you on Sauce. But my biggest fear is that Thibodeau goes to the Texans, the Jets take Sauce, and then although there's a world where the Texans take Evan Neal, you can't rule that out.
I don't think the Texans are going to be. I don't think Texans are taking them. I truly think that they're going to take an offensive line because they want to see how good. They want to see how good Davis Mills is. My projected top 7, because I only care about the top 7. I got Hayden Hutchinson to the Jaguars. I got Trayvon Walker to the Lions. I got Neal to the Texans. I got Thibodeau to the Jets. I got either Cross or Akeem to the Giants. I got the Carolina Packers taking Pickett, and I got Sauce Gardner going next 7.
I would not be shocked if Sauce went 5 and Cross went 7. But you can't go wrong either or. I think either way the Giants are going to come away with 2 great players, and the Jets are going to come away with 2 great players too. I think this is a big draft for both teams. At gunpoint, I think it's going to be Evan Neal, and part of me thinks that Sauce is going to be a Jet, and I think Thibodeau might go top 3, and I want Sauce too. But I just feel Sauce to me kind of just fits the Jets. He fits New York, but to me he just screams Jets.
Especially with Saleh's defense, I get what you're saying. I think Saleh's defense, who relies heavily on safe and press coverage, I think that would fit more with the Jets. But here's my quick question before we go. If Sauce Gardner goes to the Jets and Thibodeau goes to the Texans, what do you do at 7?
What do I do at 7? I would consider Stigley, the cornerback at LSU. I would consider the guard tackle from NC State, Ike, or trade down. But I don't think that Joe Shane will trade down. Trade down if the right opportunity comes along, a la last year with the Justin Fields trade.
I would trade down if I know I'm getting a first round pick in next year's draft. If I'm assured that I'm getting a first round pick in next year's draft, then I will trade down. But until then, yeah, I probably would go Stingley Jr. And believe it or not, I think Stingley Jr. would fit Rick Martindale more so.
I like Stingley a lot.
Fantastic corner.
I love Stingley Jr. too. All right, James, it was such a pleasure to have you on. Maybe I'll have you on. Maybe I'll have you and Nick on together maybe next month at some point as the playoffs keep rolling along and the draft will be done. I hope you have a good night, James.
You too, man. Take care.
Alrighty.